So again, welcome to today's first lab for DGL and welcome to DGL. This is Mindy Hershey, your instructor, joining you to talk about 1.4, your digital identity. So today we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a couple little tips for the class, getting along in the class, but mainly we'll leave those things for tomorrow because we have another lab tomorrow. So most weeks we'll have two labs and then a global session, which you guys know already. I'm sure you've figured out that you can go to any global session. So we've got several. We usually offer about 3 global sessions a day, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So try to make a live global session. We do several of them throughout the department. Like I said, usually 9 or 10 sessions because we want to try and accommodate all the different schedules that you guys have. We know that you guys live, in all different time zones. So on that note, always keep in mind that anything related to Full Sail at any time is always done on the Eastern Standard Time Zone. So you always want to equate that to your time zone. Now, you can do that right in FSO and it will calculate that and show the difference. So always keep that in mind because you guys know that we're located just outside of Orlando. And I don't know if those of you who've been to the campus or in the area of Winter Park's kind of like in the middle of Orlando, and then Orlando surrounds it. So you could be on one street and be in Orlando and then, wave to someone in Winter Park right across the street. So it's kind of funny the way Orlando surrounds it. So it's, in a big metropolitan area and great campus. If you guys have the chance to come onto the campus and visit, that would be great. We love that when our online students get to come into the campus and visit, but we know a lot of you live in different places. So the nice thing too is next week you'll have a library go-to training session, and the librarian or someone from the library staff will talk to you about some different events and some different ways that you can find out about those. There's lots of events and things going on. We'll talk more about that stuff tomorrow. But don't feel like you'll get left out of those things if you're online, because we do lots of different things for our online students because we want you guys to be involved with all the great things happening at Full Sail as well. So a lot of times there'll be something that's online, or rather on campus, but they'll stream it for you guys online so that you can take part, so which is really nice. And the good news is for DGL, there's not a whole lot of writing involved, Andrew, if you're not the best at writing. The other good news is we'll talk about those resources later. There are lots of resources around at Full Sail to help you out with your writing, which is really good. So we'll touch base on those kinds of things tomorrow. So for today, again, talking about your digital identity, that is assignment 1.4. So if we're looking at the dashboard, you guys already are familiar with 1.1, obviously, because you're here in this lab. So that's where 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, and 4.1 will be the place that you find the registration links for each week's go-to sessions, whether it's the global or the lab. Now, if you can't attend a live session, that's quite all right. I post the lab links within 24 hours after the live lab session. And the global links I'll usually post either Wednesday evening or Thursday sometime, because obviously we've got labs going on until Wednesday evening, or rather live global sessions going on until Wednesday evening. And we want you guys to try and attend the live if possible. If not, though, watching that archive will absolutely not count against your grade in any way. So do watch the archive as soon as you can if you can't get to a live session. And Andrew's saying that you can't wait to get to game art. You'll hear me sometimes read things that are in the chat box. And the reason is because if you're in the archive, you can't see the chat box. So that's why sometimes I'll repeat what you type in the chat box for the benefit of those watching the archive. So you guys will have just a few general ed courses, which will be this, psychology and English, and then you'll go into your intro to whatever your major is for your industry course, and then you start into your program. So it's a very, very short time. So it's equal, basically those 4 courses are kind of like equal to one regular semester, if you will, at a traditional college. So very, very short time, in a traditional college. Those of you who have been, has anybody been to another school like a community college or traditional university? So you'll know that you spend 2 or more years on general ed and gearing up for your major in a traditional school, which was the route I took. And I'll tell you what, it took me forever, which we're going to start. That's a good segue into that, because it took me forever to get through my bachelor's degree because, so I like this abridged approach. This is very nice because we'll start way back talking about my digital identity. So when I went to school, in the latter part of the 70s. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? In the latter part of the 70s and throughout the 80s, and graduated from high school in 1989, which I probably shouldn't be telling you guys that because then you know how old I am. So anyway, so when I graduated from high school, when I was in grade school, we didn't have all these great tools, obviously. You guys know that you guys have today. We did have one computer when I was in middle school, and that was reserved only for gifted students. I wasn't gifted, and I was allowed to, utilize that computer. It was really basic, you wouldn't even consider that thing a computer today. It wasn't even like a word processor. It was just, very basic. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a long learning process, Lee. It took a long time to get where I'm at. So then the journey, so I guess you could say that was part of kind of the beginning of me dealing with anything like that in middle school in a very, very rudimentary fashion, and very, very rarely. And then I remember in high school seeing a mouse for the first time, a computer mouse. And that was like, wow, what's that thing? Interesting. So then when I got into college, in the late 80s, early 90s, as I mentioned, took me a long time to do it. The interesting thing is that, I was living on my own and working full time. And you guys who watched my video know that I was a ballet dancer. And so I was, dancing with the ballet company and teaching fine arts classes, and all these different things that I had going on. So I was going to college actually part-time because that was the only time I had, to go to college. So as I mentioned, it took me a long time to get through, and I got a computer and very basic, like a word processor. And I actually enrolled in the first type of distance learning courses, which were called correspondence courses. So before online courses were even available. And we used to write letters. I used to write letters to my professors and send in my assignments through snail mail. Can you imagine that? So talk about a digital immigrant. Well, I had a long journey, didn't I? And then, with doing that, I took some of those first courses at the University of Florida, the Gators, and at some different schools. And then I continued, to take kind of blended campus courses. And those started to get a little more progressive to where by 99, I was working on my master's degree. Yeah, it was crazy. It was like 3 weeks, just to get like your mail back with some kind of grade. It was really crazy. So, boy, was I glad when the online courses started. But I really, it was enjoying, the freedom that studying that way gave me, even though the digital part wasn't there yet. And so when I got done with my bachelor's degree and I knew that I wanted to continue that path and these tech things were coming, available at the time, that's when I decided to study instructional technology and went to a program at Florida State where I got my master's degree and, got a master's in instructional design, instructional technology, and specializing in online learning. So yeah, it was very tough. And that program that I took at Florida State was 3 years I spent on that program at about 30 hours a week for 3 solid years to get my master's. So yeah, go Knowles. So a long process. Now the great thing about that was it was like a time warp. I really jumped ahead quickly because that was a very, very innovative program, even though I started it in 99. So that's when I started working online. I started doing things in an online fashion professionally then at the same time and working on my master's in an online environment. And we had we had Blackboard, which is a sophisticated LMS. So I started in the online environment back in 99. So that was really when I came up to this digital world, which obviously has changed leaps and bounds since then, right? Leaps and bounds. So when I turn in, even though I went through this whole progression, of this beyond digital immigrant, I had a student one time say, "Well, you're really like a digital dinosaur." I said, "You know what? You're right. That's true because it's way beyond the digital immigrant, right?" So I went through this whole process and learned a lot, obviously in my master's, and studied online, as I mentioned, a lot every week. My son was very small, so and my stepdaughter was young at the same time. So if you guys have a job, I was working, had a business too, and two small kids, so I know what it's like. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. I know it's hard, and believe it or not, it's actually, for those of you who have come straight into this environment, I believe it's harder in a lot of ways to be in an online environment because you have to really take charge for your own learning, right? But the good thing is you guys have all these awesome digital tools that I didn't have back when, especially in my digital dinosaur days, right? But I didn't have it. I keep saying I'm going to change my video and all that to that and make it something funny. But I didn't have all these great things like you guys have. Although, as I mentioned, at the early time, I started to get those, in the late 90s, early 2001, 2000, 2001. So, and it was interesting because at that point, when I started to tried to turn in an assignment, even though I had these great online tools, it was dial up. So imagine if I was trying to turn something in, sometimes it would take 5, 6, 7 hours to turn in an assignment. Can you guys imagine? So I'd say don't anybody use the phone. We did have 2 lines, but and oh my goodness, if it got disconnected, what a horrible thing. So sometimes I'd have to mail in a disk, and it was really a learning process between the students and the professors. So you guys are so fortunate to have all of this. And then me on this end, getting to teach with all these great tools now is really a pleasure because obviously, I started teaching online in 2002. So when I started teaching online in 2002, these things were available, but obviously they weren't as sophisticated. Lots of students on, most everybody was on dial-up, obviously, until quite a ways after that. And so we had to be creative with ways that things were submitted and stuff like that. But at least it was a big jump from where I started. So I decided, in the late 90s that I wanted to, go in the career direction of being online. And it's funny because people would say, "What?" They had no idea what I was studying, what it was. But now, of course, people know what it is. But I knew it was a good thing. And it has been, of course. So it's great to be here with all of you guys. And that's kind of my little story on my digital journey from starting way back and then progressing to where I am now. So, I try to keep up on the latest things going on. And I'd like to learn more about the realm of digital security. I find that really, really interesting. And I feel that that is just the direction that so many things are going with, really needing to. It's so important. It's so important, right? And we'll talk more about those things and different elements of digital citizenship as the course goes on. So we've got lots of interesting things to discuss this week. And yeah, Matthew's saying, or this whole month rather. And Matthew's saying there's only 12 of you. Yes, that's true. The way that the labs work is it's just for my 2 classes. So I have 50 students. So 12 is not too bad because that's, almost 25% of the class, just about, or my 2 classes. So you'll probably see some students that's names you might not recognize because you're in here with both of my classes, which is nice because this is an opportunity for you guys to be in class with other people, which is good. Yeah, the globals can get very large. So, and the chat box moves really fast in the globals when there's a lot of people. So yeah, these are just for my classes, and then the globals are for the entire department, of course, anybody who's in DGL. So it's nice because you kind of get both sides of that. So for 1.2, you guys have already read the article, so you know what I'm talking about with that. And if you haven't, you got the gist of what I was saying, I'm sure, but obviously you'll need to read that as quickly as possible after this lab session, which we're not going to take the whole 2 hours because I want you guys to synthesize what I've talked about and then continue working on this assignment so you make sure you've done everything you need to do, because when is your initial post due for 1.4? Tonight. That's right, due tonight. Okay, so Michael said midnight. Actually, it closes at midnight. So it's, yes, 11:59. That's right, Michael. So it's 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in another time zone, right, you got to remember it's 11:59 Eastern Standard Time, because if you log on at 12:59 our time, or let's say you log on at 11:30 your time and it's 12:30 here on the Eastern time zone, you're not going to be able to submit it. The forum will close down. So as Matthew's saying, it's 10:59 for him, right? So make sure you're aware of exactly what time it is for you on your time zone, because the forum will shut down. Or no, I'm sorry. I take that back. The forum won't shut down. It will be late, though. It won't shut down because it's the discussion board, and the discussion board stays open until Sunday. At Sunday, 11:59 p.m., it will shut down because that's when your reply posts will have been due. But 1.5, your main assignment, because that's not an ongoing thing with replies and stuff, it will shut down at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so for this week, you have, for graded assignments, 1.4 and 1.5, right? So 1.4, your digital identity, again, you have your initial post due this evening. If you don't get it in, especially if you're watching this on archive, still post it. There will be a 10% late deduction. Now, the department requires me to deduct that 10 points if it's late. So don't make me do that, because I don't like taking off 10 points for it being late. Get it in there, and if you can always revise it later if you needed to spend more time on it and, add to your video or drawing or whatever you've created, okay? And then, yes, Lee, 1.5 is due by May 10th. Now you'll see here on the dashboard here of FSO, you can see that it says that, like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5 are all due May 10th. All right? Everybody see that? They open up May 4th and they close May 10th is what that's saying. Really what that means is, yes, 1.5 is due by May 10th. So 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, May 10th is when it will shut down. So you need to have it in before that, right? 1.4, even though it says that, if we click on 1.4, right? If we click on 1.4, it shows your initial post is due this evening, right? So you always want to click on that to see if there's any further instructions about the due date. So if we go into 1.4 right here, and you guys are already aware of that because you've been looking at it, but just to make sure everybody who's watching the archive knows this too. Once I click on 1.4, it shows me here that the first post, your digital identity vision, is due on Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that means your replies aren't due until May 10th. So you need to reply to at least 3 other students, right? At least 3 other students by May 10th. Now, if you take a look at the rubric, right? If you take a look at the rubric here, a rubric is like a checklist. It's one of those educational terms. It's like a checklist, like a recipe, if you will, to get the best grade. So you want to look at the rubric that we provide for you for each of the assignments. So you'll notice in the rubric, it says for the replies right here, okay, we're at least 2 other students engaged with about their visions. So those are your replies, right? And then it says, yes. So this is exceptional column, right? To get the most points. So how many points are your replies worth? Yes, that's a good question, Michael. You can reply as much as you want. Sometimes students reply 5, 6, 7 times because they're really engaged in it, and I think that's awesome. So absolutely, you can reply as many times as you'd like. Absolutely. The more the better, I think, because you learn more that way. Students learn from you, and it just makes it a richer experience. So I think that's great. If you want to reply more than 3, go ahead, absolutely. So right here it says in the excellent column, which is what you guys want to aim for, right? The student engaged with more than 2 classmates. So see here on the left, the dimension is you engaged with at least 2 other students, right? But here in the excellent column, it says you engaged with more than 2. So in other words, you met the requirements if you did 2 replies, but you're only going to get a maximum of 21 to 17 points there. See that? So does everybody understand how that works? So you always want to look at what the dimension is and then go look at the excellent column to make sure you're aiming for the best grade you can get, right? So you could see the 89 to 70 would be proficient. If you only replied to 2, you could get up to 21 points. So if you did everything else really great, you could still maybe get up to it. You could still get an A. You could still get up to 96 points, but you couldn't get any higher than that because you'd only replied to 2. So you guys understand how that works? Okay, good, good. All right, so that's something that I really wanted to call your attention to because it's very important to make sure that that's clear for everybody because I want you guys to do the best job you can and understand that, it's fine if you just do 2, but if you want that, try to aim for that higher grade level, which I hope you do, then you got to have 3 or more for those replies. So don't forget the replies because not only does it enhance your learning by going back in there and communicating with your classmates and looking at their visions and seeing what tools they used, and then you could look and learn new tools and that kind of thing. You're here to learn, right? But it also gives you a chance to get to know one another naturally, and it keeps this going throughout the week. So it's not something you're meant to just do and then not revisit. You're supposed to be looking at that discussion board throughout the week. So don't forget those replies because for all those reasons I just mentioned, but also it's 25 points. So if you do a perfect job on your vision and your initial post, but you forget to do your replies, the maximum grade you could get would be a C because your replies are worth 25 points. And that holds true for most discussion boards. And it's probably in most of your classes going to be some kind of margin around there. So replies are very important because, again, of the collaborative nature and learning from your peers that we want to encourage that. And then you guys, continuously coming back on the platform and engaging. Okay, so everybody's familiar with that then and understands that process, right? All right, excellent. Good, good. To me, that's one of the really important things there because sometimes students say, well, I replied twice, but well, you see that more than 2 times to be in that higher range. Okay, so take a look at the rubric and then, use it as a checklist. Like what I would do is look at it before you start working on the assignment so you have an idea of what you're doing. And then I would use it as a checklist as you're doing your assignment and then after to make sure you've got everything that you need for the assignment. Also for your assignments, we include an FAQ page. So if you run into a problem, check that FAQ page because we've probably been asked that by a different student already or by several students rather. And then we put that in our FAQs to help you guys out. So look at that FAQ page if you run into something. Also, on the community discussion board, I have posted a video for 1.4 to help you out with this assignment. And again, what we're doing here in the lab, obviously. And then, and that will walk you through doing a lot of it. And then 1.5, I've also posted. And that is my 6-pound dog who thinks she's very large. So she's roaming around. Yes. She doesn't like it when I lecture, but it's quieter when I get to do this at home rather than on the campus because the campus is always loud. So I try to do these lectures away from the campus because it's loud, but if she's nearby, sometimes she gets excited. So anyway, it's very cute. I'll show you a picture. Okay, so she likes to put in a little input and then she's quiet. So Okay, so let's see. So your digital identity instructions. Let's take a look at the instructions real fast. I know you guys have already read them, but just a couple things I want to point out to help you out as tips. And it's loading. Okay, so here we go. So I'm not going to read through these instructions. You guys have already read them, or you need to read them, obviously, if you haven't yet. But you know that you're reading the Mark Prensky article here from the dashboard on 1.2 that talks about digital natives versus digital immigrants, like I did. So as I was talking about it, I could have put that into words, right, into writing, and that would be my initial post. And I could have maybe done like a little story about that, right? Or I could have created a video about that. Now, that is what I did for my vision, but I wasn't that detailed naturally. So those of you who have watched my little video, you saw that. So naturally, you want to tie in what Mark Prensky said and have some kind of, comparison or some kind of thoughts about digital immigrants versus digital natives in there. And you want to create your audio or visual digital vision, digital identity file. So it could be an image, it could be a video, it could be audio, and I'll give you guys some examples in just a moment. And then naturally, you also want to have your reply post with at least 2 other students. So the other requirement is that you need to use a Web 2.0 tool in order to post this. So let's pull up my Web 2.0 page. And I'm going to give you guys some examples here that would be great tools for you to use. Now, if you see something here that you'd like to explore, by all means, you can go ahead and explore it, and you can do something different to add to it, because you don't have to just post once and then you're done. Remember, you could post more visions than one if you'd like. So yeah, okay, so here's the thing. So Leah's saying like After Effects. Okay, yes, Lee. Like if you wanted to create a video and use After Effects, that would be awesome, right? But then you need to display that video with some kind of Web 2.0 tool. Now, if you use the online version of After Effects, because I think through Adobe Cloud, it's online now, and then you posted it through like their online, through their cloud, then that would be awesome. And that would count as your Web 2.0 portion. So that would be great. But if you just used Adobe After Effects on your desktop and then tried to just upload the file, that wouldn't meet the Web 2.0 requirement. Okay. So if you were posting a video, what would be some online tools that you could host the video with? And then post in the discussion board to meet the Web 2.0. Okay, excellent. Yep, YouTube would be great. So you could do that in YouTube. Yep. Any others you could think of? So YouTube's the most popular. That's what I use. That's what most students would use. So yes, then what you would do, Lee, is create it in After Effects, for example, and then post to YouTube. Now, if you're sitting here and saying, whoa, After Effects, my goodness, I don't know how to use After Effects, but I want to create a video. That's all right. Come to my Web 2.0 page here, and you can see I've got all kinds of examples. And you go animate here. You can make amazing animated videos very quickly. A lot of these are just kind of little drop and drag type, easy tools. So these are all free. If they ask you for money, don't do it. Just use the free version unless you want to use it for business or something. Where you want to use it like for commercial purposes on your own. But for school, I'm not suggesting you pay any money for any of these, just use the free versions. So I use the free versions for all of these and they work great. So any of these tools here on my Web 2.0 Pinterest page would be great. If you want to follow me on Pinterest, feel free. And again, there's that link to my Web 2.0 page. So check these out. So if you wanted to make a comic, we've got one here, Pixton. If you wanted to do like a sketch, I am the absolute worst at drawing. I got my talent as being, performing artist, and I absolutely can't draw. I can't paint. So these little things are nice, these kind of things, but I like to steer clear of that. If you wanted to create a video from your smartphone, this Magisto is really awesome. Magisto here, if you install this app on your smartphone, you just open it up and like grab some photos and boom, it will add music and make a video. So, which is really cool. So that's really easy to use, Magisto. So, I mean, I like using that just for anything, you know, and it's really good. So, okay, now here's the thing. Michael's asking, can a PowerPoint contain Web 2.0 tools? All right, well, here's the thing, Michael. If you want to use PowerPoint, that's okay. But then you need to use a Web 2.0 tool to display it, right? So what I would probably do at that point is maybe upload it to Google Drive, drive.google.com, and then you could share out the link and make sure that you've changed the sharing settings to anyone with the link. The other thing you could do is, and we're going to talk about this starting next week, and then in week 3 you'll be required to use it. But Microsoft has an online version of PowerPoint, and that's at onedrive.live.com, the link I just put there in the chat box. And if you wanted to use that, you could, and that would meet the Web 2.0 requirement because you could go in and share out the link and you'd have to be using PowerPoint online, which is awesome because guess what? It's free. You're welcome. So that's free too. Microsoft has created scaled down versions of Microsoft Office, and again, we'll talk about those later in the term. So onedrive.live.com, if you do not have Microsoft Office, yeah, to compete with Google, absolutely. I'm sure that was one of their main objectives there with that, and to get, you know, and also now Apple is doing beta with the iWork suite with some of those. So yeah, they're trying to bring themselves up to that level, which is good. So we know Microsoft Office costs a bundle of money. So this is a good alternative, onedrive.live.com. And again, here's the link if you want to check this out. And you can just register with your Gmail account and boom, you're in there using it free. Now, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that like PowerPoint would have on your desktop. But the good news is you can work back and forth. If you've got PowerPoint on your desktop, you could start with that, and then you could like upload it to OneDrive, and then you could finish editing it in OneDrive, and then you could share out that link. I'd be okay with that. Yeah, so isn't that awesome? The nice thing about this too is you've got it anywhere you go, right? So here it is, very easy to learn. You can see that they have, you know, templates, all that good stuff, just like they do in your desktop version, you know, so you just choose whatever template you want, you know, insert your slides, you know, all that good stuff. Oops, I canceled. Insert new slide, you know, 3D column, let's say, whatever you want to do, right? So yeah, it's really cool, actually. Yeah, I like this. I don't even use the desktop anymore. I just use this when I want to do that. So you could see where you could add video to it, all kinds of good stuff, right? It does have animations. It does have the transitions feature. Again, you can work with, you know, your templates. You can format your own background. And if you did decide to use this, one of the most important pieces, yeah, it's easier to use, is that, you're welcome, is that you share it. You have to make sure it's shared because by default, anything that you create in here is going to be private. So you want to make sure that you change the sharing settings on the file. So you would click share up here on the top right corner. And then this box will pop up, and see, by default it's shared with only you, of course, because it's private. So you would want to choose get a link, because you don't need to invite, just get a link, because you want anybody to be able to see it in the class, right? So we don't need to edit it, so take it off edit and choose view only. So view only is good. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Digital Pioneer. I like that. Yes, I like that. That's right, because I was at the forefront of the online learning movement. So thank you, Michael. I feel better. Much better. So So view only. So that's what you want to do. So, and then create link. Yeah, that is good. That is good. Digital Pioneer. I like that. Okay, so here we go. Here's the link, but I can shorten it so I don't have to put such a long link. So I could do shorten link. It will automatically shorten it for me, and voila. Isn't that lovely? So here would be the link to this file. So you know what? I'm going to put that in here. So if you guys want to click that link and pull it up on your own computer so you could see how that would work, you know, so I could just type in here, my digital vision, digital pioneer, much better, right? And make sure you put, you know, your first and last name, student ID. And remember, you're only sharing it with people in the class. So you don't even have to put it on that. You can put just like on the file you turn in with the link, put your student ID on that. You don't have to share the student ID with the whole class. So just, you can put that again, like on the file you turn in. Okay. And I'm not that concerned about the student ID being there, to tell you the truth, but we won't talk about that because it's supposed to be required. So make sure again that you've shared out the link. So you're welcome to use this. So anything that I have in my, yeah, so I really like the online versions of this stuff. And it's awesome because if you have to, let's say you have to do a presentation at work, you could use this and then you just get on the cloud and you've got everything you need right here, right? So it's awesome. I like everything to be cloud-based. That way I've got anything I need whenever I need it, which is great. So again, here is my Web 2.0 Pinterest page. So check out these different things. So for example, if you wanted to do a story, maybe you're a creative writing major and you say, well, you know what? I don't really want to do a video or a song or anything like that. I'm more comfortable writing maybe. So if that's the case, Flipsnack would be a good, would be a good option for you. So you can log on here and see some different examples, and you can see they're using them for all different kinds of things, for real estate, for all different kinds of things. So let's see. Actually, I wanted to go visit the site. Here we go. Yeah, so this is really, it is, yeah. So, and it's funny because these things, there's so many great cloud-based software programs out there these days. I mean, it's like, why pay for these things, to spend hundreds or thousands on your desktop? Now, I get it with like Adobe and that kind of thing being used in industries, professional industries, like in my industry with doing instructional design work, I've had to use, like Captivate and stuff like that. So I get that, but create for lots of stuff, you can use these tools. So here's an example of a little, Flipsnack that somebody created. So see how it's a little story? Isn't that cool? And you can just add whatever you want. They've got, templates with the pictures and all that good stuff. So very easy to use, and people creating newsletters, all different kinds of things. So you could use that for your digital identity. Yeah, it's really cool. Or whatever you'd like. Any of my Web 2.0 tools. Now, the thing is if you've got something in mind that you don't see on my Web 2.0 list, it's okay. You could use something else. That's fine, but I've given you lots of examples here to explore. So if you want to use something else, that's okay, as long as it's web-based like these are. So that covers the Web 2.0 requirement. Or, like I mentioned, if you wanted to do something like, say you wanted to create an image in Photoshop, then that's okay. You could do that. You can use whatever software you want, but then you would need to use some kind of Web 2.0 tool to display it. So if I created an image in Photoshop, which I wouldn't do because I'm absolutely horrible with Photoshop, but if I created an image with Photoshop and I wanted to meet the Web 2.0 requirement, what could I use to display it? What would be an example? You're welcome, Lee. How about, well, good, excellent. PhotoBucket, absolutely, yes, very good, Lee. And do I have PhotoBucket on my Web 2.0? If I don't, I want to add that because I should. So PhotoBucket, absolutely. PhotoBucket would be a great, so anything like that that you can upload to the Web 2.0 environment and share out the link. Or Flickr, absolutely. That was the other one I was thinking of. So Flickr or PhotoBucket would be two great examples if you wanted to create like your own image in an offline tool and then use that online tool like PhotoBucket or Flickr to upload it. Now, what if I wanted to create a song in GarageBand or, what Pro Tools or whatever software you're using to create some kind of song? So maybe you're a recording arts major, you just want to create a song. It doesn't have to be related to your major, But what if you wanted to create some kind of music for your identity? What would be a good tool? There's one right here on my Web 2.0 page. What would be a good tool to host it with for the Web 2.0 requirement? Oh, you know what? I don't know why. I must have pressed something accidentally, muted myself. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. So what was the last thing you guys heard me say? Oh, Flickr. Okay, goodness. Okay, good. So, all right. So back to PhotoBucket and Flickr. So if you created the image, that would meet the Web 2.0 requirement to use like PhotoBucket or Flickr to host the image, right? And then share out that link. But what if you wanted to do an audio file? What if you wanted to create a song, do a rap, create an instrumental song, something like that? What would be, okay, SoundCloud. Yep, Lee says SoundCloud, and you can see that's on my Web 2.0 page. MySpace, that would work. So anything that would host where you could share out the link and people could see it would work. So SoundCloud, definitely. MySpace, yeah, anything like that you guys would want to do where you could share out the link. So just make sure Spotify, yeah. So make sure that if it is something where it's like an account that you have, that other people don't have to necessarily have the account to do it. So to see it. SoundCloud you wouldn't have to, and I have a SoundCloud account anyway. So most of these things you can like publish and share the link. So make sure it's like that. Because I'm not sure how MySpace works these days, if you would have to have a link or an account for that or not. So do you know, Lee? I guess maybe you don't have to, and you could just make it public. Okay, yeah. So steer away from if it's something that people have to have an account in order to see, because you want everybody to be able to see your vision. And obviously you want me to be able to see it so I can see it and see what you're doing and grade it. So, but yes, good examples, everybody. Great input on these. Okay, so, all right, so if it's public, then that would work. Yeah, then that would work, as long as you make sure that you have the settings correct, where other people could see it. So all kinds of examples here. If you wanted to create, let's say, like a mind map type thing, Poplets are great for that. So this poplet.com is a nice little tool that you could use. So if you've ever done like a mind map that's similar to like what this is, and you can add images to it, you can add video, you can embed like YouTube videos, anything like that. So what's cool is with these Poplets, it's nice because you can use multimedia. You know what I mean? So if I click on the Poplets here, and let's see. Oh, this person. Oh, I'm still on Pinterest. I meant to be on Poplet. Thought I clicked the Poplet link. Okay, so if I'm here in Poplet, you can see this example of what it looks like. Let's see, here's some examples. So here's but these are pretty bland, right? I would definitely spice it up a little more. But you can see how it, helps you visualize things, and it's like a mind map type layout. And again, you can embed images, video, anything. So if you want to do something multimedia where you're doing, more than just like an image, and maybe you want to do like an image and a video, or song and a video. It's up to you. But you meet the requirement with one. So I'm not saying you have to do more than one, just if you want to explore different things. So here's an example of a poplet, you know, and this one's bland, but you guys get the idea, right, of what they are. So if you wanted to explore that, that would be a good tool. But any of those on the Web 2.0 page, but just some different ideas. Okay, so how does everybody feel about this assignment now? Feel good about it? Hopefully that cleared up any confusion that might have been out there. Okay, good. All right, so does anybody have any questions then before we log out, or any additional questions? Well, thank you, Michael. All right, well, good. All right, excellent. Well, then on that note, what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and close out the session. So you guys still have time. Oh, except, wait, let's see. All right, Jarriet has a question. Do you want me to unmute you, or do you want to type? Oh, that's good, Jose. Okay, type. Okay, so go ahead and type. So we'll wait a second for him to type. Oh, and remember to fill out the attendance form while that's questions being typed. So I use the same attendance form for all of my labs. So that attendance link is here under materials, and I'll put it here in the chat box for you guys too. And the phrase, today's special phrase or topic. Today's special phrase or topic is being creative with Web 2.0 tools. So that's today's special phrase or topic. So, oh, is that the question? So make sure you fill out the form, you know, provide a brief summary of what you learned, right? And then indicate whether you watched the live session or the archive. So for you guys, it'd be live. And then click submit. And when you see this little message here, that means I got it. If you don't see that message, that was a good question. I'm glad you reminded me because I'd forgotten. So if you don't see that message, that means you need to redo the form. So again, here's the link for the form. So make sure you guys fill that out for the attendance. So that's the same link. You might want to bookmark that because it's the same link for all of my labs all throughout the term. So good. Thank you for that reminder. So on that note, we will go ahead and close out the session. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we won't. Michael's got a question. So Michael, I'm going to unmute you. You're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
Okay. I've been working with the definitions as far as like going to the websites and everything.
Okay.
My question is some of the words I came across were kind of hard to find, and I had to repeat some of those same websites where I found the definitions. I was wondering if that was okay to do.
I mean, if you don't do it too often, that's okay. But if here's a link for you, which, by the way, he's talking about 1.5, and we'll cover that more tomorrow. But there is a video, you guys, online to help you with 1.5 where I explain how to do it. And if you want the route that's the probably the easiest for getting 1.5 done is use Google Chrome, which my video shows you how to do that. So here's a link to a search engine where you have lots of different search engines to help you out to find info. So these are more academic based, Michael. So I'd go directly to some of these and do a search so that you don't use the same site too many times. I don't mind if you use it a couple, 2-3 times, but don't use the same more than that. So
Okay, yeah,
so this,
and that's what
yeah, I'm sorry. So this would be very good. And then Google Scholar here, which is one of the links there. So this is good, scholar.google.com instead of doing just a regular Google search, because those will yield also more academic-based results. So good question. I'm sure a lot of people have that same question.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so remember this, Teach Thought here, 100 academic search engines. There's that link again for anybody who's getting stuck and needing some more types of search engines. And we'll talk a lot more about this stuff next week too when we get into digital research more heavily. This week's just a primer. So excellent question. Thank you, Michael, for asking that.
No problem.
Okay, any other questions before we close out the session? All right, well, we will go ahead and close out then. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for your participation. And I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will see you online.